This whole drift build has gone together way too smoothly for there to not be a catastrophic character fault at any point during this build. And literally the fucking moment we get this thing dialed in, it shows its brown fucking ass. Ugh. So one of the last things that we did to get this car dialed in, aside from buying time, this is how complete this car is. If this was not a problem, we would be out driving and drifting this thing right now, but it's a fucking brand new problem that just happened like literally the hour that we finished this car. We retorqued the head studs, which you're supposed to do with ARP bolts and studs, and then we put the valve cover back on because you have to have the valve cover off to retorque it, and it started leaking oil. Okay, the gasket sat for a year and a half. The valve cover gasket, and it's an OBD1 gasket, and they're kind of junk in the first place. So we got an OBD2 valve cover and a brand new valve cover gasket set to prevent that leak. And then we put it on all nice, and it was magical, and it worked, and the valve cover didn't leak, and it was leaking oil way worse than it was before because it's not leaking from the valve cover gasket. Daniel, where the fuck is it leaking from, Daniel?
We think the head.
Ah!
Come on. Say?
What do I have to say, bro?
Come on, say?
Why? Ugh. So we bought this to confirm it. This is a fluorescent leak detector dye. So this is pretty much a UV dye. We're gonna put it in the engine oil, and then it's gonna freaking leak because it's brand new oil, and it's really hard to see where it's leaking from because it's brand new oil. So we're gonna put this in there and then let it run and let it leak, and then we're gonna check it with a UV light that I have to confirm that it's freaking leaking from wherever the fuck it's leaking from. 0 stars, bro.
0.
So yeah, that's what's going on here.
Add 1 ounce to 8 pints of ATF or 5 quarts of oil, or add 1 ounce to 5 gallons of gas. Run engine and load test to penetrate leaks. It doesn't feel right. Well, hopefully it gets in there.
It looks kind of gross.
Yeah, dude.
It looks like rust.
Do you want to like put a little bit more oil in it?
Yeah, we can douse it down a little bit. And to be clear, it's not leaking oil. It's freaking pissing oil. So the leak is somewhere around there. And there's oil residue up here. There's oil residue on the headers, on the rack, on the radiator. There's some all the way back here. That right there is also engine oil residue. There's some on the shock tower. There's a bunch on the catch can.
On the hood.
You can see how it's kind of like shimmery, sparkly. There's some on the intake boot. There's a bunch on the hood. There's a ton on the freaking everywhere, dude. So this thing isn't just like leaking. Drive it for like 10 or 15 minutes. It's freaking throwing oil everywhere. All of that, that's all engine oil. It's freaking everywhere, man. So this leak is not something that you can go to the track and wipe down and be fine. It's freaking chucking oil. So we got a little UV light here. We're gonna hook this up.
Ready?
Yeah. Definitely smell it.
Smell the oil or what?
Smell the oil, yeah.
Yeah, I smell it too. I also smell soap residue.
Yeah. Because I cleaned it. Yeah, it's covered now. Taking all the way to the right? Huh? This thing is freaking soaked. Yeah, it's coming down this way.
Yeah, it's right there. That's the timing cover, but that's just where the head gasket sits.
Where the head gasket meets on the timing cover. Yeah.
It's right there.
It's coming down the side of the block, it's getting onto this, and it's just freaking flinging it everywhere.
Yeah. But the die's not. The die's just coming over there. So yeah, it's the head gasket. Was that one of the loose ones right there in the head?
There's the last head bolt's like here. There's none over there.
No.
So we did some diagnosis on it. I'm still suspicious of the head gasket, but I didn't actually physically watch it leak. So for one, the timing chain guide, or the timing chain tensioner on the side of the cylinder head is leaking. I confirmed that it was leaking, but it was dripping just a little bit at a high RPM. Of course, the engine wasn't under load, so it could be leaking a lot more when the engine's actually under load. So we're gonna fix that. Another thing I didn't think about is that we're not running an AC system. We don't have the AC pulley in there, but the bolts are still long enough. If you guys watch the cooling system rebuild on the sedan, you know I ditched the pulley and stacked washers on the main crank pulley to get those bolts from sitting too far in. That's something I didn't think about when we did this engine build. It could be that those bolts are shredding the front main seal, and because it's back there and it's hard to see, you can't really get eyes on the front main seal when you're looking at it when the engine's running. It could be in the front main seal, and then the crank pulley is just flinging oil everywhere. So we're gonna look into that. We're gonna pull the front crank pulley off to see if it's the front main seal being chewed up. We're gonna replace that tensioner. We're gonna try and see if we can fix it without pulling the cylinder head off. That's kind of gonna be like a last resort thing that I wanna do, because I don't wanna rip it off if we don't have to. I didn't physically see the head gasket leaking, but it was kind of in that area, so I don't know. We're gonna see. We're gonna try a bunch of things to get it to seal, and then if it's still pissing like mad and we can't figure out what it is, we might just rip the head off and, you know, go from there. Those MLS head gaskets are notorious for leaking. We did do a full engine rebuild on this, but I don't know if the machines that we used to cut the head and cut the deck were capable of the finish required to properly run an MLS. So I don't know. We're gonna find out. So these next few videos are gonna be a lot of fun trying to figure out what's going on with that. All I know is the valve cover gasket, all of that stuff, it wasn't puking oil, and then we retorqued the head studs, and then now it's puking oil. So the only thing that changed from the first time we drove it and it wasn't pissing oil to now it's pissing oil is retorquing the head studs. So you know what I mean? To be continued, boys. All right, pray for this car. I'll see you guys later.
We are dreaming in the dark. We are nothing more than dust. Search for